Morning, everybody, and welcome to this Branduin webinar on delivering growth for SMEs. I'm Tony Mulvale. I'm your Branduin advisor delivering this seminar today, and we'll be covering the key components from the business model canvas around how to develop partnerships. So this is quite a key topic for many business owners, particularly when you're looking to scale up your business and looking for ways to generate additional revenue and growth from the work you're doing. For me, one of the key things with this is making sure that businesses have those foundations in place that structure and support the growth in the future and avoid having to hop around and do things at the last minute. There is a chat option available. I can see we've got a couple of fireflies joining, and they always like to announce themselves, which creates a interesting set of messages. But I can see Indy, thank you very much to that. What I would like at the start of this is if people could just drop something into the chat to say what they would like to get out of the meeting or the seminar today. Hi Dennis. I believe this will be available on YouTube. But I will confirm that once we finish, and I'll drop you a note to let you know. Sorry. And yes, so if you have anything specific you would like to get out of this session, please either drop a message in the chat or you can email me afterwards if you've got specific things that you would like to discuss. It's really important that people interact with this and provide input and ask questions, because that's a great way of generating examples that we can work with and talk about. So yes, this is the UK SPF Supply Ready program as part of our Branduin Fit to Bid series. It's 3 minutes past the hour, so I'll crack on. Funded through the UK SPF, the UK Shared Prosperity Funding, and sponsored by Ealing Council. And we are here today to talk about how do you build capacity and scale up your local businesses through winning new contracts. This is me. I'm Tony Mulvale. I'm a business growth advisor. I work as a growth consultant for my own consultancy, as well as a knowledge exchange lead for the Claude Littner Business School. And that gives me unique insights into the kind of academic processes and support that's available there, as well as my own experience over a long period of time in a variety of roles. I've been doing this now for some time. I'm also the program manager for Ealing and the Parkwell area, and a member of the Parkwell Business Group Board. Fit to Bid is an improved program. It's part of the government website, and if you want to find out more, here's the link. We will mail these out to you afterwards. And when we talk about Fit to Bid, we cover a variety of boroughs in West London, South West London, and out into Hertfordshire. We have programs going on at the moment in Harrow and Ealing, as I said, along with the sort of southwestern part of Hertfordshire. So if you are in one of those boroughs, you can contact us afterwards if you want more information about your local area, or you can go to the fittobid.co.uk website and sign up from there. Okay, so Indy's got some questions about partnerships, and we'll be covering that. And you're looking at different tiers of partnerships that can best support growth. Okay, great, thank you. And then Victor talking about, recording this will be available. And I agree, sometimes you look at these things, there's some great ideas in here, but I need to go back to the recording to think about how that would look for my business. So the Fit to Bid methodology, we've developed this at Branduin with Nazar Manekshaw, the MD, over a period of time, and it focuses on how to engage with procurement. So this is one of the seminars on that process, along with your bid skills and selling around developing this capability to bid and think about how do I structure a tender that will win me new business and enable me to grow. So the part we're looking at today really is the bidding skills and the writing, but also thinking about who am I partnering with to make this happen. We also talk about sales enablement, so that's how do I actually reach the right type of organization and the right type of person or business for me. And through our Meet the Buyer events, it gives you an opportunity to take some of that practical tender advice and implement it either through conversations with the buyers or submitting requests for quotation, requests for procurement in that space. And when we talk about partners, we really do talk about what does it mean to be a partner? And we all know the story of the cheetah, that it is one of the fastest land animals on the planet. It's able to move at great speeds, and it exists in an environment that is suited to its kind of genetic structure and its capabilities. But one of the greatest challenges that cheetahs face is that they are singular creatures. They work alone. Chasers are, yes, high speed, but they only have a certain amount of energy for that. So very quicker than Usain Bolt over the first 100 meters, but they tire easily. Big challenge they have is they can't climb trees, unlike leopards that can climb up trees to get away from lions. So they struggle in that environment because they have natural competitors who will come and steal their kills, and the 50% success rate means it's a coin toss as to whether they're going to succeed and have dinner or not. And part of what we're doing here is looking at how do we get away from that, what can feel like in a solo business or a smaller business where you're constantly in that chasing to keep up, chasing to find new clients, and always feeling that we're not quite sure what happened. Some we won, some we lost. So when we talk about that, we're really talking about sustainable partners. And back to the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone like a cheetah, but if you want to go far, go together. And elephants are a classic example of that. A herd that works together, understands where the water points are, understands how to find water, how to find food, and has a memory of where things are. But they work together as a group to give more than just the individual. So it's a very different model, and this is what we're talking about with sustainable partnerships. Is about working together to deliver that benefit as a group. Dennis, where's SME behind the supply chain? How do we max opportunity ahead of next week's South or in-person event? Dennis, that's a really good question, and we'll think about that as well. The event in Southall next week it's a business sprint. It's designed to go into more depth in your business model and develop that thinking around what are we offering to our customers. As an example of the Branjamin partnerships and collaborations, Branjamin started in 2010 when all of the business link centres were shut down. Steve Forey and Nauza Manekshaw, who created the organisation back then with East Sussex and the Sussex Chamber of Commerce, looked at the situation where business funding and direct support from the centres had been cut, and realised that there was still funding for business development. So they put a proposal together with the University of East Sussex, I think it was, and the Chamber of Commerce in Sussex, and provided a business advisory service based on that funding. And that was the initial model. And over time, that's grown and developed and iterated and changed into the brand we have today, where we have a structured program like the Fit to Bid. And you can see from the partnerships we've built them with many boroughs across London, west of London. We've also linked in with chambers. We're here today with the West London Chambers of Commerce hosting us on their webinar platform. Thanks to Lisa and Alan and the team for that. And we work closely with organisations such as West London Business to deliver the London West Innovation Network Innovate Ealing programme. And we also have worked with what was the Forger Park Royal, which has now been disbanded through the OPDC, but also with Heathrow, University of West London and the Westmont Hub, Metro Bank. And that's 15 years of partnering with organisations to develop, build and deliver value for the business, value for the community and value for business owners. So this is a long-term project. This is not a, come here, do a bit today, make it work. It's very much a case of expanding that. Just to respond to your question, Obi, We have a link for the register to that. Indy's on the call, and I think she's helping to organise that with Nowza. So Indy, if you have the link to the registration, if you could just drop it into the chat channel, that'd be great. Thank you. And so what we're going to talk about today is the exchange of value between business models. And one of the things we need to look at as business owners, and I do this all the time, is talking to customers, talking to clients about what's the value that I bring with my business and my knowledge and my skills to the organization I want to partner with. This is very much a peer-to-peer conversation that looks at what's the value in my organization, what is the value and the offer in the partner organization, and how do we bring that together to create something that is greater than the whole. And examples of that might be, I have a mechanic and they've got a workshop, and I own a fleet of cars that's a taxi service. As a mechanic, I might want to go to that taxi fleet and say, look, you've got 100 vehicles on your books. If we could work together as your sole provider of servicing and repairs and the ongoing maintenance of the vehicles, then we could look at a way of working together such that the rates I charge you are less than the standard rates that we have for our operation. But what that does for me as a business owner of the garage is it gives me a guarantee of supply of vehicles that need maintenance work. And because I know the fleet and because I know the vehicles and I know the history of them, I have a much better understanding of what they need, when they need it, and what we need to carry potentially in terms of stock to deal with short-term emergencies, flat tires, things that break, particularly for vehicles like that are on the road a lot. So we can put a proposal to a partner to say, we'd like to partner with you to do this. We're not working with them to sell to them in a formal sense of selling like a car salesman or a real estate agent. We're really looking to say, we want to be your valued partner as the mechanical operation that keeps your fleet on the road. And for a taxi company, time on the road is money for them. So the more time on the road they have, the more money they will generate. So we're looking to say, here's the value for us. We understand your vehicles. We understand how to keep them running. The value for the client, for the partner, is we're on the road more often. Our cars are reliable. If they do break down, we've got a go-to mechanic who understands us and can sort these out at short notice. That keeps our utilization and occupancy rate at higher levels, so we can be more available more often. So that's an example of what that exchange might be. So what we're going to do today is talk through some of those examples. Well, Indy, thanks very much for popping the link in the chat for those of you who want to sign up onto our Southall event next Thursday, the 11th. Indy's dropped that link in the chat for you. So we're talking about our partners, their business model, our business model, and what's the connection and the partnership. So let's talk a little bit about what our partner needs. And one of the things I do talk about is the ISO 9001 quality management system. And what that does is set out a set of principles to say, these are the key activities that you need to have for a customer-focused business to add value to your clients and to your partners. And while it sounds quite formal, and if you wanted to apply for an ISO 9001 certification, that can be quite expensive in some cases, particularly for a small business owner. If you're talking about spending, £3,000 to £5,000, the time and the effort that goes into this, plus the ongoing accreditation. But I encourage my clients to read through that. It doesn't have to be the full thing. A summary guide is great, and it talks about some of those key principles of running a business that are really important, and it gives you that foundation to say processes and procedures you need to in place to do that. If you are working with the council, they will be looking for sometimes for that type of standard in your business operating model. There's ISO 14001. Oftentimes in the procurement chain, people will be looking at, you've got an environment qualification if that is necessary to the package that you're trying to procure. If your work involves anything around on-site work, lifting, things like this, you will need to have a health and safety policy as well. Again, I recommend looking at the ISO 18001. It's changed now. There's a different standard, and look at ways to say, okay, what does that mean for us, and how can we demonstrate that we've got the right standards in place? Sometimes if you're in the construction space, you might need gold line construction, or you might need certain types of qualifications to demonstrate your safety measures. And what we think about here is what's coming into the business, what do we do, what are the processes, and then what do we deliver as a result of that. And our little diagram here thinks about, well, what do we do, with whom, for what purpose, and how do we do it, and what do we have internally that we need to do that. So when we're building our partnerships, what underpins that is the key processes and the people that we have and the exchange in value in that space. So by doing all of this as well, it helps us to understand what we offer, and when we're having that conversation with our partner, it becomes much easier to articulate to them what we do and how we add value. So it's a really important exercise to go through, and it doesn't have to be pages and pages of documentation. It can be a couple of pages that lay out the key principles, how you work, so that you can have a conversation that's structured and clear. One of the things we talk about around business development with the business model canvas is these lenses of feasibility, desirability, and viability. And you can see the little diagram there. Desirability is about, our customers and what is their need. So what do we have that the customer wants? And we need that because we need customers. If we don't have sales, we don't have a business. It's very simple. But also we need to understand, is there a demand for our product or our service in that market? We talk about feasibility on the left-hand side, and that's very much where the partnership comes in, is to say, what do we need to do that's feasible for us so that we have the capacity to expand our business? And oftentimes we find, particularly in smaller businesses where there are constraints, it's usually because we don't have the right people, the right skills, but oftentimes we haven't actually defined what the roles are and what we want people to do. And so the operation can be a little bit of a challenge because it's not feasible given the structure that we have. And we need to be financially viable as well. We need to have more revenue than costs. That's a very simple balance sheet, P&L equation. Are we making money? If not, we go bankrupt. If we are, then we continue to grow and survive. And adaptability, we're also looking at, okay, so how do we adapt to changing markets, changing circumstances? There's tariffs that have been applied to exporters. There are input cost rises through, commodities due to war in the Middle East and other factors like that. So what do we do to adapt to the circumstances as they change? But increasingly, what we're looking at is purpose. And in the procurement space, governments are looking, and procurers, Heathrow, other organizations like that, are looking to say, what's the social value you bring to this? What is the economic impact? That's one thing, but what's the social value you bring? What's the environmental benefit that you bring? And how do those components contribute to the overall value you offer to me as the purchaser of your service or product? So that's a bit of the background. And that social value, as I talked about there, comes from our commercial impact and our customers. And when we talk about social value, the economics, the environmental, the social, the ESG, the governance aspect of that, we're really talking about circular economy. We're talking about other aspects like, do we pay the London living wage? So the London living wage recently increased to about £14.10 an hour, I think it is. Ealing is a London living wage borough. It's one of the leading outer London boroughs in signing up London living wage employers, and that is making a difference to the teams that are working for these companies. That's giving demonstrable social value impact from that organization. Carbon footprint, being able to measure that, understand that. Hiring local, so looking to where you can partner with local companies. If you're like Indy running her IKB Events Works and you need something printed, then you would go to a local printer. Why would you outsource something to a printer based in Glasgow or Cardiff, why not find the printer that's just around the corner from you? So sometimes you will find that if you're on an industrial estate or you're close to one, there are probably businesses there with the solutions you need to certain parts of your business who you become your suppliers, and then you can demonstrate you're supporting local businesses as well. Yes, we can talk a little bit about that as well. I don't know who Home to Everyone is, but we can cover that as well. Ethical working, so having in place modern slavery policies and ethical work policies, equality, diversity, inclusion. Also looking at making sure that your workforce is diverse and that you're an equal opportunity employer is critical. There's legislation around that. And then investing back into the community. What else are you doing outside of your business activity that supports the community around you? And then a little bit of partnerships, just to think more broadly about why are we partnering with an organization? What is it that we're looking to achieve through that? And a big example of that is the Old Common Station build. We have Balfour Beatty, Vichy and Synstra all working together to produce a new train station in Old Oak, and that requires differing components in terms of construction experience, signalling, electrical works, all of those different pieces. So these three companies have come together to form a joint venture, and they've set out which company does what. They have expertise in specific areas, and they're working together to say, okay, this is how we can deliver that. Now that's a really big organization. Sometimes it's difficult for smaller businesses to say, okay, what does that mean for me? So another example might be looking at supply chain options for larger tier 1, 2 buyers in Heathrow, or even with a facilities management company like Equans or Morgan Sindall, who are the facility manager provider for Hammersmith and Fulham. It may be there are parts of the work that they do that you are a specialist in, that you can deliver the value through that supply chain contract and partner up with them. So, for example, Morgan Sindall at Equans might not be specialists in fire alarm installations and physical or digital security. So they might be looking for an outsourced partner who can do that. So if you're a cybersecurity expert, there might be an opportunity to work with someone like those FMs, focusing on your niche to say, I'm a cybersecurity expert, I can do this, or I'm a fire alarm installer and I know how to install these products to make your businesses and your estate safe. Or you can also look at the other piece, which might even be catering. You might be a caterer, might be people on site, and you might be saying, okay, great, this is how we can actually provide you with the food you need, or a local caterer, and you could get a local supply contract. As I said, with this co-opetition, this is more where local businesses together, working together to achieve more. So the example of the car garage and the taxi company is one where two companies can come together to deliver more and achieve more, both benefit from that one with a constant supply of work, and the other with greater availability of their fleet. So these are ones that are quite good for local businesses, printers, event management companies, venue management companies that are looking for events. There are differing ways to partner together to make that work. And then what we've got is developing new products in the co-opetition and things like this. So that's kind of an overview of what we're trying to do there, and say, look, at the end of the day, we want to create value that's more than the sum of the parts. And our outcomes are offering scale and stability and risk reduction as well in certain examples. What I want to do, Alden, that's a good point, forming relationships with other recruitment business so you can share leads where you're kind of swapping expertise. It's like, oh, I've got one of these, you might be interested in that, and then they come to you, Alden, and go, actually, I've got one that's really your bag, have a look at this. And that might not be any exchange of financial compensation. It simply is the fact that you're a good production of their leads. So rationale, we want to think about meeting expectations, engaging with customers, specific solutions, and then thinking about economies of scale and things like this. So where we want to get to today is a few exercises coming up to look at, okay, so how do I do this and what does it mean for my business? So it will be important to think about that in terms of what are we trying to achieve. So if we think about your business model, how do I adapt it? How do I build those key partnerships? And the questions we want to answer today are, who are our key partners? Who are our key suppliers? Which resource partners, which resources are we requiring from them? And what are the key activities that our partners perform for us and the value they deliver? So this is going to be a little bit more interactive. And the first thing to do is to think about successful strategic partnerships, and think about that for your business, and then pop some ideas into the chat box just to say, this is what I could do in terms of identifying 3 successful strategic partnerships I have. Obi, if you are the lead provider for the package that you have procured, then your partner does not necessarily need to register on the platform. And what I mean by that is that in your contract, you may well have something where you state in your response that you will work with partners as needed to deliver the components. And so you're essentially acting as the main contractor for that package, and then you're looking to sub out some of that, but ultimately accountability for delivery lies with you in terms of due diligence on the partner, making sure that they're financially sound and doing all the things that the procurer has asked you to provide as part of their package. So, Obi, what I would say is that initially getting into the supply chain, a good way to do that is to work with the types of partners that have those strategic contracts. So iStrat Consulting, not sure who that is, but the question is, how are we defining strategic partners? So these strategic partners are people that we're going to work with that will bring additional value to our partner, to our business. So we're looking to engage with them in the long term. We're looking to ensure that we understand their delivery model and how we work together, and we're here to build a relationship. This is not a transactional, oh, I need 16 pillars of steel, can you deliver them to my site tomorrow? We're very much looking at, how do I engage with this people, because that supplier, we want to be a long-term partner. So that's what I mean by that, if that helps. Okay, great. And so we're thinking of some of that and who the partners are in Indy, very much looking at Brandon being a key partner with some of the training we've provided, and spot funding through the commercial aspect of that activity for overseas funding, that sort of thing. And then with the Ealing Council being a buyer of Indy's IKB EventWorks service. Yeah, Eldon has Microsoft Recruitment as or Microsoft as a partner, and linking with them, and Ernst & Young as a Big Four consultancy that you're looking to connect to as well. Yes, I'm not sure who iStrat Consulting is, but again, yes, that's a great example of a strategic partner, because they get you into the door to the bigger clients. And sometimes if you're looking to build up that relationship, you might look at, okay, who's got the main contract with them, and what can we do that adds value to their proposition that we can fill a niche with and start to demonstrate the value you bring through that opportunity. That's spot on. Yeah, Victor, I think you've asked the same question, which is, how does one identify strategic partners? And I hope that explanation makes sense to you and gives you insight into that. So Don, yeah, computer network cabling, Wi-Fi access points, IT training as a second, and then apprentices and graduates. So when you're looking at Don, I know Don, and he's a cybersecurity expert, and what he's looking for are people who can come in and install equipment and do it well. Make sure the cabling's tied up, neat and tidy, labeled, and actually, connects into the right point in the building, IT training providers. So they're going to be companies who are specifically looking at digital skills and other topics like that, cybersecurity training, and then apprentices and graduates. That would be partnering with colleges, so Harrow, Richmond and Uxbridge College, West London College, West Thames College, to say, I need apprentices who are on these types of courses to give me these type of results. There's a company in South Acton near me who, Nelson Dishwashing, who make dishwashers, and they've had a 30-year partnership with an apprenticeship provider who have a program that trains apprentices in the precise skills that this company wants. So that's an example of a really long-term strategic partnership, because you've defined the course, you've defined the skill set, and you work with that provider to make sure that their training fits the skill set that you want for your company. Other SMEs help deliver expertise, so cyber, pen testing, innovation software. Yeah, exactly, Barry. So that's again where you're joining up and providing a joint value proposition rather than an individual piece and saying, oh yeah, you need someone to do that. So if we delve into your strategic partners, what are we looking for, and what sort of partners do you need? So what we're looking here is to say, how do we actually step into that? We've already covered a little bit of this, but if people could think about, okay, so which ones are critical to your business? Who are your critical suppliers? Which of our suppliers and partners are sourcing our key resources? And then what type of partnerships would suit our needs? Are they formal contracts with terms and conditions and delivery service level agreements and pricing and the components to say, look, this is a very structured formal contract, and both parties are clear about who does what, how we do it, what it costs, and what the obligations are. And those are great ways of building a partnership, because it helps remove unspoken expectations and ambiguity about how we run this partnership, and also enables us to have cleaner breaks if we decide that this is no longer working and we just decide that we want to end that contract, all the way to the very informal conversations about, I'm going to be doing the following with this particular client. They're looking to expand their capacity, and I've identified that they've got some issues around their client identification and sales enablement selling. So I need somebody who can come in and teach them how to be a sales manager. But I've also identified that they've got a technology issue and that their service provider doesn't have the capabilities that are required. So I might go to Don and say that they need the cybersecurity piece. Let's, introduce you as the cybersecurity expert, and then you can take on the running and managing of that contract. Because in my situation, if I manage the customer and their expectations and their cybersecurity contract, and then I sum that out, I end up with my company being a postman between what the client needs and what the cybersecurity expert needs to do. That makes no sense to me. So it's better to introduce them and say, you do that piece because I trust you and know you can do that. And then you have a direct relationship with the client, rather than me shuffling envelopes between calls and support calls and all of that sort of activity. So really thinking about what makes sense for you in that space. So thinking about this and thinking about what we want from our partners. What is our partner willing to offer us? What do they bring to the table that offers value to us for that partner? So some thoughts in the chat there around, what are our partners willing to offer us? Any more thoughts on that? Connections, yep. Indie, exposure of other new clients, additional expertise, continuity, stability, experience. Yep, these can be all good things. Out looking at candidates, leads, and advisory activity. I think Obi with the experience, I think that can be critical. Sometimes if we're looking to expand and grow our organization and we want to connect with a larger organization than we've dealt with before, we might be looking at, how do I actually present and position myself in that. And if I partner with a more experienced organization, I can also learn from them about how to go about handling the negotiations, positioning my company properly, pricing myself effectively so that I am making the revenue I want for this. Don pays referral fees for successful introductions. Yep, Alden too. So, yeah, referral fees are always a good way of bringing people in. That can be quite transactional. You sign up, you're an introducer, you get a fee. Some people look at that as a long-term thing. Some people just say, yeah, that's great, I'll do that. But also choosing the right partner to offer the referral fee to as well is always very good. Tanya, talking about wider reach as well. Yep, absolutely. I'm based in London. I work with businesses in West London. I now want to expand my operation to be a national operation. So how can I scale it up? How do I find partners based in other parts of the country who I can work through in order to expand the reach of my company? What else do we have? Opportunities to bid with them, additional resources, absolutely. Doing all of that. Additional expertise, stability, exposure to new clients, connections. Yep, that's great. So that's what our partners are willing to offer us and bring to the table. And then on the flip side, what's valuable to our partner? Where's that value exchange that we're starting to think about? Okay, so what value do I offer to the client? And if we think about it, if you're a cleaning company, you might have something where you're thinking, oh yeah, by the way, I'd like to work with a office company. So I might go to someone like Regis and say, who does your cleaning for you? We're locally based. We have a supply of cleaners. Can we work with that? Another example we have is a company that does washing for site, for contractors on site. Why does that work? Well, because these people working on site often have uniforms or PPE that's site specific, heavy clothing, gets soil, smudge, things like this can be quite dirty. That company can scoop up all of that clothing at the end of a shift or a week or whatever the agreement is, take it to a laundry, wash it, clean it, get it back in a good condition, and then return it to the site so that the on-site team always looks clean and doesn't come across as ill-kempt and things like this. The value to the construction company is we see people on site who look clean and the image is they're professional. So there's some things to think about there. So where is that value coming from? So on our side, as a provider of that, we're helping deliver that quality piece of that. We might look at white label content services as an example. So what we offer is an event management system that can be white labeled into your website. And what we mean by that is all the back end piece, the booking management, candidate sign up, emailing, all of that sort of activity that we need to run an event successfully. That technology is built by someone else. They put it on our website. We put our branding around it, and we've got a solution that's ready-made to plug in. Yeah, Barry, unique expertise, long-experienced professionals over practical, pragmatic training. Yeah, all good points. Alden talking about analytics and data hiring space, saving time and assurance. Understanding how they work and the behaviors and skills needed to successfully deliver more faster. Yep. And then Indy talking about bringing the right business together and creating that collaboration and longer lasting partnerships. And oftentimes it is the organizations coming together to create a greater impact than working individually. And also you understand how each other work. And as Alden says, you know what each other does, you know what you're capable of, and what you're looking to do is provide a high performing partnership where sit down and have a discussion. Here's what we need to do. This is the challenge that we're looking to face. These are the actions we need to take, next steps, and that can be done in a very structured and organized way. But because you have that trust in follow through and delivery, then you know that your partner will get on with it and come back to the next discussion saying, yeah, I've done my part. And then key activities and key resources. This is part of the business model canvas that talks about what do we do and what resources we have that we need to have in place to deliver successfully for our partner. This is all about our key capabilities, and those activities are the things that we do, the operating model that we have, the activities that we perform. And that could be, I want to support a company finding more clients. And what I might look at there is, okay, I have a special skill in being able to ring up people, work through the company script, and book meetings for the founder to go and have a conversation. So I bring the right businesses into the room and the meetings happen. That's something that you might want to outsource to someone. They've got a series of steps that do that, and they've got the resources to do that around the people with the skills that make it happen. So they've got a process, and they've got a resource that does that. Others might be, I'm a HR person. My skill is HR management, understanding how formal disciplinaries work, understanding the employment law, and the value I bring to a company is the ability to address and resolve employment challenges. So again, what do I need for that? I need to have a series of steps and activities that I will deliver as a set of steps. Say, okay, you've come to me with this thing, this is going to arbitration. Here's the process by which we manage that. And the key resources I bring are my knowledge, my understanding of how to address that particular challenge and resolve the problem, or at least make sure that the impact minimizes the business impact. So some things to think about there. So does anybody have any thoughts around their key activities, and which is kind of the operational piece versus the key resources they need? And in the manufacturing space, again, this could be, I make specialist sound testing equipment. Barry, data protection, legislation, service user, trust, regulator, compliance. Yeah. Most companies need to register with the Information Commissioner, the ICO Information Commissioner's Office, I think it is. For smaller companies, that's an annual fee of about £50 to £60. But also, then what are those processes by which you, Barry, can then deliver trusted compliance processes for that legislation, which could be auditing websites, making sure that the right components are on the websites. Even something simple like you haven't got your company number on the website can result in a breach, all the way through to what we had the other week with the budget, which is someone releasing market sensitive critical information at a point in time that was not helpful for the budget delivery. Obi, do you need to form and register an SPV with the supplier, or do I have to bid in my company name mentioned as a partnership? Obi, what I would say with that is, if you, as I think I mentioned this a bit earlier, if you're the lead company, you can state that you will be using suppliers to fulfill specific parts of the contract. In the bid, you don't necessarily need to go beyond that. You just have to say that it will be delivered, and you are in control of choosing who delivers what and when. But as I said, ultimately, accountability for successful delivery of the contract is down to you as the lead partner. If there's a compelling need for a special purpose vehicle where it's a joint venture and you've gone to company's house and created a new entity that could be a 50-50 share between you and the other company, then that's a really specialist setup, and that would need the articles and the formal contractual agreement between the two organizations to put that in place and say what you're doing. Oftentimes, SPVs can be challenging if there's no track record. So if you're a new company and you don't have a track record, then that can be difficult to procure contracts, but sometimes you can achieve that through other mechanisms. So yes, you don't need an SPV. SPVs typically only come into place for major projects where there are substantial revenue demands in terms of the contract size and shape and the type of activity. So it does tend to be large organizations like Mighty, Synstrom, Fujitsu, and other organizations like this that might form a joint venture as a specific body to manage a specific contract. For most of the smaller contracts, there's that flexibility around you being the lead and then being able to work with subcontractors. So moving along, The final piece of this is the critical question, return on investment. Is the value that we're gaining from this particular activity going to generate revenue for me that exceeds the cost of the investment? And when we're talking to people in our advisory services, one of the biggest challenges is understanding the time element of that activity as well. A joint venture with another party means time invested in the activity as well as the revenue you generate from that, and any additional expenditure you have on setup. It might be a new company, an email address, it might be software packages, it might be physical acquisition of an office or some activity like this. So what we need to look at is what's the revenue this is going to bring, and look at the cost impact of that, and put a sensible value on your time. One of the things I talk about with people is say, okay, if I charge £90 an hour for my service and I visit a client that is 1 hour away from where I am based, then I've spent 1 hour of travel time, 1 hour of client time, another hour back of travel time, and I may well have even spent an extra half an hour to an hour writing up what I've done. So now I've done 4 hours and I'm charging £90 an hour. So whilst the headline number looks great, the actual return on that investment is much less per hour. You know, it's close to about £18 an hour, because I've done 4 different activities, each of an hour, and I need to divide that into my revenue. And oftentimes in that growth space of generating more revenue, owners lose sight of the time involved in that activity as well. So it's really important to have a clear cost structure for your business to say, Tony spending time doing this particular activity costs £100 an hour. And that includes, you know, my email, my overheads, and other activity like that. It's not what I pay myself, by the way, it's what it costs me to actually be there in the business and all of the bits that come with it. And if I do this and I have a project support person who does a different role, and I have a marketing person who does a different role, I need to understand what's the cost of each hour for that person, so that I have a true understanding of my investment, and then I can evaluate the return against those true costs. Because otherwise, if I just look at revenue generated versus time versus a smaller amount of time, I can vastly underestimate what my return is on that. Yeah, and Eldon, that's a perfect point, is that the tier 2 relationships can lose up to a third of the deal if they're going direct, because they haven't got the structure and the costing right. And all of a sudden it's like, I'm losing money, or the margins are so thin here that I can't invest in the business to grow. Yeah, Barry, absolutely. Add-on costs, licenses, insurances. There's a lot of software out there now that we can use. Do we really need them? Can we cut back on some? Yeah, there's all sorts that goes into that. So even if you're renting an office, that can be an overhead that you need to take into account. What proportion of the office is supporting this particular activity? So yeah, cost apportionment is really critical in terms of the value being created. So delve into that and really have a good understanding. And what I always suggest to clients, if you're not sure and you're looking at your profit and loss account and you're looking at your bank balance, and many business owners will manage the business based on the pounds in the bank, is to have a conversation with your accountant to say, how do I think about these costs? What should I be doing to make sure that the top line revenue is sufficient to cover my costs and my expenses and pay me a salary? Yeah, Don, time is money, absolutely. And from a cybersecurity perspective, if my business can't run because it's shut down, that's a definite money problem. And yeah, partnerships and subcontracting, we've touched on this a little bit earlier, but these partnerships, these subcontracts give us access to different markets, to different customers, to delivering solutions that allow us to join up the activity, We can also scale up, or we can explore new markets or new regions. Sometimes it also gives us a reduced risk profile, and also talks about acquisition of resources and activities that we get access to. And people have touched on this in the chat as well. Expertise that they don't necessarily have, or sometimes even if you are partnering with someone, you're looking at them as a mentor for you to grow your business and to build on their experience. And we have different types. We can do marketing partnerships. So it might be that I'm the taxi company, this is the garage. You might do a bit of a joint venture where, you know, we're marketing this Barry dividends are only 10.7% additional income and lower tax. That is true today, but talk to your accountant about that to get the correct advice for the structuring of your payments as a director in terms of base salary and dividends, because I know there's a bit of a shift coming in the new budget as well that might make that less attractive in some ways. Your accountant is probably the best source of understanding taxation and payments to you via that route. I'm not an accountant, so I'm not an expert, and always recommend that people do that and talk to your accountant. And again, that's another example of a critical partner in your business. Many of us will have year ends coming up at the end of December. Key recommendation now is to make sure your accountant partners with you around year end planning. There are many things you can do as a company that provide you with corporation tax relief. And that can simply be even putting some money into a pension plan from the company. So I recommend working with your accountant as a key partner right now to say, what do I need to do to make sure that I am in a good position for my year end? It's not about tax evasion. This is about making sure that my company provides the best return for me. And that actually is a duty as a director of a company in the Companies Act, is that you're always acting in the best interests of the company. So that's something else to think about in terms of the advisory activity with your accountant. Thinking about the partnership agreements, as we've covered, they can be simple, complex, they can be fully structured, legally binding documents, or they could be a looser heads of terms or memorandum of understanding to say this is what we're going to do. But always when you are engaging with a client to partner with them, think about these topics and think about how do we make sure that we meet those deadlines around this. In our supply chain, there are many different options as well: infrastructure, materials, operations, capacities, co-creation. So think a little bit creatively sometimes. How do I work with some of these people to go, yeah, this is what I need in terms of a partner, and where are those partners and where can I find them? And what we've talked about today is identifying business challenges, doing your market research, why are we partnering? There's this partnership canvas that we've talked through, so you can go through that and look at that in more detail. And oftentimes the partnership evolves. So we're looking at a first stage, this is what it looks like, and then we're iterating over that and continuing to do that work to build it up to be a stronger operation, and keep these points in mind. Think about key partners, key suppliers, key resources, and key activities. How is that working with our partner? What are we providing? What are they providing? How do we do it? Why do we do it? What resources do we need? What are the activities for us? And then shortlisting your partners. There was a question, March, earlier in the chat about how do I go about finding partners, finding clients. And Dennis asked a question about building on the key contact we generated with these events. And then there was another chat about enhancing existing partners. Having a structured approach to this to say, okay, I'm coming to a client meeting. What do I want from the meeting? What is the best outcome for me as my business in this meeting? And what's the best outcome for my partner or potential partner in this meeting? and really having a formal agenda that you send out to say, here's our discussion topic today, these are the points I want to cover, and what I want to leave the meeting with is a clear understanding of the next steps in the value transfer between us so that we can talk about formal contract. I think, Dennis, part of that is having more of a rhythm in the business that enables you to say, okay, who do I need to talk to? When do I need to talk to them? What's the follow-up and what's the next step? With the CRM, you can put some of that in place to look at what deals do we have open, where are we with those deals? Have we had the initial meeting? Have we had a conversation that includes a heads of terms or a memorandum of understanding? What's the outcome of that meeting? What do we want to gain from this? Do we proceed? Do we stop? There's a whole process you kind of need to build into the back of that to keep that momentum up, and having somebody who can be dedicated to doing that, understanding that process, I think is important. That was Dennis's question, and then right persons at the organizations who have a budget to utilize, I would say go through the org charts, look at their ESG or CSR reports if they produce them. Report the complete, yeah, that sounds great. Dennis, building a complete stakeholder map in your CRM and implying the same process in bid writing. Yeah, essentially you're bidding for work with your partners. It's the same process, but it has differing mechanics in terms of the language you use, and the conversations you have are more collaborative, and it's looking to form a partnership, whereas procurement is saying, this is what we do and this is how we deliver value. So doing that. I think also in terms of finding the right partners in the organization, LinkedIn is oftentimes a source for bigger organizations. You can start to navigate who's there. You can look at what they've got published on their websites. You can look at key people in the business. What I've been using is a tool called perplexity.ai. That is a really good tool for doing that sort of research. I'll pop that in the chat. That is basically an AI tool. You can structure prompts around doing the research, where you can give them a name of an organization, what you're looking for. A good prompt will then generate a list of insights into that business. Almost out of time. Takeaway for people is their top 3 actions on the back of this meeting. So make a note to yourself, email them to me and say what you're going to do next. The reason why you email them to me is because that's going to say, actually, these are the things I'm going to do, and you said to somebody you're going to do it. Don't necessarily have to email it to me, but you can email it to a colleague in your organization, say, this is what I'm going to do next from this conversation. Really important, because that helps with accountability. We have mentoring as part of the UK SPF Fit to Bid program. If you are interested in a one-to-one session with me and you haven't already had one, please email me and I will send you a link where you can book some time with me, and we will go through a fairly detailed conversation. If you're unsure about that, I can put you in touch with some of the people I've worked with to give you insight into how this works. We have our learning resources as well. If you're interested in those, please let me know. Oh, that's very detailed and interesting. Thank you, Dennis. Yep. And if you are part of the program and you've booked a one-to-one session, we can look at ways of creating expressions of interest to start building up some of your connections in our local authority or larger private organizations, so you can develop winning bids. And lots of examples of companies we've worked with: pallets yard, commercial cleaners, window suppliers, couriers, constructions, all sorts of differing sizes and shapes of organizations, both in the logistics, manufacturing and services. And then thank you for coming today. I'm happy to answer any questions. You can email me via tonym@brandgerman.co.uk, or you can sign up at our Fit to Bid link as shown there. And just want to say we're right on 11 o'clock. I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes if people have any further questions, but otherwise, thank you very much for your time. Drop any feedback in the chat just so we can capture that, and look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you very much.